Searching for a home can be a daunting and confusing task, which brings about stress, heartache, and pain. As you're going through this process, your brain is riddled with questions like, what school system is this home in? How long has the owner lived here? What's the neighborhood like? And so much more. The temptation is just to throw in the towel and be a lifelong renter, but based on the fact that you clicked on this video, I don't think that's you. You're one of the few that knows that the heartache, the confusion, and the pain are worth it to have four walls to call your own. But what if I told you there was a way to sidestep some of this irritation? Today, I'm breaking down a short list of 3 home types right here in Mobile, Alabama that I would never buy. If you're new here, my name's David. I make videos just like this one every single week about moving to Mobile, Alabama. And I'm also a licensed real estate agent here. And with that being said, let's jump into this. The first type of home that I would never buy is a home next to a busy street. Now, I've had clients that this genuinely doesn't bother. If you're coming from a city that's way more substantial in size than Mobile, you might say, hey, this is quiet compared to what I lived in Las Vegas. And that may be entirely true. The home might make total sense for you, but you have to be thinking about resale. And to that, you might even say this is going to be your last home purchase. But plans often change. What if there's an emergency? What if you get a job offer across the country that you can't refuse? Or what if you just change your mind about the home? I am always advising my clients to purchase homes that are good investments. That way, if they need to get out, they can. You absolutely do not want to be in a situation where you purchase a home for $200,000 and you struggle to move it at $180,000. So while the noise might not be a huge deal for you, it probably is for most other people. And if the noise is a big deal to other people and you look to sell the house later, you're gonna have troubles and you'll probably struggle to sell it. The crazy thing about Mobile, Alabama's market right now is there are a lot of houses listed actually for under what they might appraise for. This is seen most commonly with rural homes that have a ton of land. This happens because to a very specific type of person, those houses with all that land is worth a substantial amount of money. But that person is somewhat rare. You need a very specific type of person that wants to live on a 30-acre farmhouse. You also need a very specific type of person that's willing to live in a home where there's a low hum of traffic and movement all the time. You immediately shrink your buyer's pool when you buy a home like this, which is why I encourage my clients in a different direction. And in all honesty, part of this is selfish on my part. If I'm gonna be selling this home in a couple years, I want it to move fast and competitively. The purchase of the right home is paramount to getting a good return on your investment when the moving boxes come out of storage. Now, I wanna be very careful about how I state this second type of home that I would never buy, because this might make some of you angry. So specifically, you want to avoid poorly recently renovated homes. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Duh, you want to avoid any poorly built or repaired item. But let me tell you more of what I'm saying here. When an investor purchases a home, there's frequently little to no emotion in that property. They're looking at the hard numbers. And I'll be honest, there's nothing wrong with this. Flipping homes is a great line of work, and I know many people who do it incredibly well. However, if someone's main motivation is just hard numbers, it's much more likely that corners will be cut. Have you ever seen this type of flooring in a home before? Yeah, it's the cheapest flooring they could find. So here's the question. Do you want to live in a home where everything is brand new, but it's the cheapest alternative of every product they could find? Now, the other thing you need to think about is that flippers don't take on these huge, expensive, risky projects out of the goodness of their hearts. They are trying to make a profit. That means you're paying a premium for all of this new stuff that you did none of the work for. Additionally, since they have a bottom line, this can make flippers incredibly rigid on their price. If they bought the home for $200,000 and they spent $100,000 on repairs, they're gonna wanna sell the home for at least $320,000. They are not gonna accept an offer of $300,000, even if that's reasonably what the home is worth now. So here's the question, how do we separate a good flip from a bad one? My first piece of advice is to inspect every door handle, every piece of cabinetry, all the light switches and outlets. Have a super critical eye. Does it look like they were careful as they were painting the home? Do the cabinets stick when you pull them out? Do the doors fit properly in the frame? Also, inspect the flooring carefully. Does it look like it was done by a professional, or do the raised tiles show to be a tripping hazard? What the flipper wants you to say is, no worries, I can fix that little mistake they made in the paint, or replace those light switches later. Which is true, you definitely can. Those are really simple fixes. However, what you're getting to see is the mindset the flipper had when they were working on the home. You're honestly getting to see a peek at their professionalism. If they cut corners on things that you can see, how many more corners do you think they cut on things you can't see? For example, maybe this flipper opted to fix a plumbing issue they saw in the home themselves rather than calling a licensed professional. After the house is closed and there happens to be a leak, whose problem is it? Yours. So make sure it's a good flip. The last thing I always make sure to do is ask for a seller's disclosure. If you end up working with me, you don't need to stress because I'll make sure we get one. But if you end up working with another agent, just make sure they get one for you. This is a form that tells the buyers all the sellers know that's wrong about the house. This is super important because Alabama is a buyer beware state, meaning you can't turn around and sue the sellers if something's wrong with the house. I've known flippers that will say, well, I've never lived in the house personally, so I'm not going to provide you one. If they refuse to provide a seller's disclosure, run. It's very possible that they know of something deficient in the home and they're trying to sidestep it. Get that disclosure and help protect yourself. Since Alabama is a buyer beware state, you need to get all the information you can before you put a single dollar into the home. Now, granted, a ton of these issues are going to be caught by a decent inspector, but some won't. Surround yourself with a good agent, a good lender, and a good inspector. If you need help starting this process, you have my number. If you're looking to move to the Mobile, Alabama area soon, I would highly recommend picking up my relocation guide. This is a 20-page tool with graphics, pictures, tips, and so much more, all focused on getting you the most pertinent information on Mobile, Alabama. So many of my clients have found this tool to be helpful. If you're looking to move here soon, even if you're not looking to purchase a home, I know this tool will be valuable to you. All you need to do to pick it up is text the word guide followed by your first and last name to the number you see right here on screen. This is my personal number, so feel free to shoot over any other information you'd like for me to know about you and your move here down to Mobile. The last type of home that I would absolutely avoid buying is a home that has multiple big ticket items that need repairs now or within the next year. Now, again, this might seem obvious to some of you, but I want to explain what I mean by big ticket items. These are items that will almost certainly cost several $1,000s to fix. These include issues with the sewer, the roof, black mold, or HVAC replacements. Let's start with the HVAC. If the home is under 2,000 square feet, it's probable that the home will have just one unit. These single units can cost anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 to replace. Now, if the home is over 2,200 square feet, it's probable that it will have two units, so you'll need to double that price tag. What if the house gets up to 4,500 square feet? Well, you're looking at 3 units now. If there's a detached in-law suite, that's also going to have a unit. All that to say, you'll want to know how many units are in the house and what their condition is, because if they're rough, you'll need to replace them soon. Now, talking about roofs, the average replacement is around $10,000 to $15,000, but this widely varies based on the company you go with, the certification you have, and the size of your roof. But imagine you have 2 HVAC units and a roof that needs replacement all within the first year. That's well over $30,000, probably closer to $40,000 that you're going to need to replace within the next year. These things don't really increase the value of the home. They might make it more desirable, but they're really more of maintenance items. Let's say in this same situation, you make all those replacements and you decide after 3 years you want to move. That's a fairly average time frame. If you sold the house for $10,000 more than you purchased it for, you would get a great return, but you'd actually still be in the red. Take these maintenance items seriously and consider how they'll affect your tomorrow, not just your today. And please consider resale, because I don't want you to end on the rotten side of a deal. Another issue you really ought to consider is foundational problems, because these can cost tens of thousands of dollars and you do not want to mess with them. Look for large cracks that run all the way across the foundation's surface. Again, an inspector can find these, but they can also be latent, meaning that they can't be easily seen, particularly when they're under a carpet. Again, it's just so vital you get all the info on a home that you can before you purchase it. Now, let's say you're already under contract in a home with many of these issues and the seller is working with a good agent. They will likely advise their client to fix any of these major issues, like a foundation problem, in the inspection process. This is because these huge defects will need to be disclosed to all future purchasers. This will make it nearly impossible for the agent to sell the home at the listed price. Additionally, once the home gets back on the market, it's going to deter other buyers seeing that the previous contract fell through. That's why it is so important on every home you buy to get an inspection. Additionally, if they're willing to make these repairs for you, make sure they're done by a licensed professional that provide a warranty, not their father-in-law. The licensed professional should make sure the work is done right, and if they don't, the warranty will give you protection if anything pops up. Now, even if the seller is willing to make every repair, there are times I'd still advise my clients to walk away. When you find yourself purchasing a home with several major issues, you might just find yourself in a money pit, desperate for a shovel to dig out. Who you surround yourself with during this process is vital, and there are a lot of great realtors in the Mobile, Alabama area. But if you're looking for somebody who knows the area really well, puts your needs first every time, and works incredibly hard, make sure you give me a call or a text. You can get this number by screenshotting it and typing it in manually, or you can copy it from the description below. I love when you all reach out to me about your real estate related needs, so make sure you grab this number and introduce yourself. With all that being said, here's another video that you can use to dive deeper into Mobile, Alabama. I'll see you there, or I will see you in the next one.